Good evening. It is 5:15 this Monday, April 11th, and the Carroll City Council is now in session. Would you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have tonight's agenda in front of us. The consent agenda includes the following: approval of the minutes of the March 28th meeting, approval of bills and claims, no licenses or permits, and there is one appointment to the Historical Preservation Commission. That would be Karen Friedland, and she will fill a 3-year unexpired term to expire on 12/31 of 23. So that is tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shrek? Yes. Ordinary?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Item number 4 on tonight's agenda is a Tree City USA Award, the 32nd year, and Arbor Day proclamation. And do you have anything to say before I read this off?
I believe it's our 32nd in a row.
Yep, hardly seems possible, but here we are. I will go ahead and just read it here very briefly. Whereas Iowa's trees were a significant attraction to early settlers because of their multiple benefits and the beautiful environment they provided. Whereas trees are an increasingly vital resource in Iowa, enriching our lives by purifying our air and water, helping to conserve our soil and energy, creating jobs through our forest products industries, serving us with shade for our recreation, providing our wildlife with food and shelter, and making our communities a more pleasant place to live and work. And whereas with the cooperation of all Iowans, the benefits of trees can be passed on to future generations through tree planting and conservation of this renewable resource. And whereas each year on Arbor Day, the people of Iowa pay special attention to the benefits of our trees and dedicate themselves to the planting and management of Iowa's forest resources. And this finishes by just saying, now, therefore, I, Mark E. Beardmore, Mayor of Carroll, Iowa, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in Carroll, Iowa, and urge citizens to participate in tree planting programs that will ensure a greener Carroll and a greener Iowa, and to nurture, protect, and wisely use Iowa's natural wonder of trees. With that, I will thank Chad and his predecessors and Tom Lewis when this thing started. I just saw Tom over the weekend and it was great to connect with him. So I will go ahead and sign that and turn that over to you. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Item number 5 are oral requests and communications from the audience. We have a few attendees tonight. Is there anything that anybody wants to address that is not on tonight's agenda? Anything online? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move forward to 6. Item 6 is ordinances. And the item there is the transition to a full-time fire chief. And I turn it over to Mike at this point.
Thank you, Mark and council. The city has been very fortunate to be served by Fire Chief Greg Shrek for 40 years now as our volunteer firefighter role since 1982, the volunteer fire chief since 1987, and has served the city's building official and fire safety officer since February of 1999, and really appreciate all of Greg's work through the years. As we know, Chief Shrek is nearing retirement, and with that, leadership from the volunteer fire department who are here this evening and city staff have been meeting from time to time over the past year to plan for this transition. This review has included contacting and working with other fire departments in the area, including holding Zoom calls with the fire chiefs and city managers in Boone, Storm Lake, Creston, and Red Oak, and developing a new position description for the fire chief position, and developing a recommendation on changes to Chapter 35 of the City Code of Ordinances related to fire departments. Currently, Chief Schreck serves about 60% of his time as the building official / fire safety officer, and then 40% of his time as the fire chief role in the fire department. Through discussions with the leadership of the fire services, we're recommending a transition where we'd eliminate the building official / fire safety officer and move towards a full-time fire chief role. The fire chief would still continue to serve as a department head of both the fire departments and the building department. And then I would say the decision to move to a full-time fire chief wasn't taken lightly, but really with a lot of the volunteers and the needs in the volunteers and their requests, and then just how the fire service has changed over the years, we think that this would be a good transition point for the city. In the end, the fire chief would serve about 70% down in the fire department and 30% in the building department, and still would act as a department head of both of those departments. I do believe that this is a needed change and do support this change. So tonight there's 3 items in this request. The first is an ordinance amending Chapter 35 of the Code of Ordinances related to fire department. Second would be to consider approval of a resolution setting salaries and wages for the fire department, fire chief. And third would be a decision on which pension program to enroll the fire chief position into. Starting with the ordinance, the proposed ordinance to move the fire chief from a volunteer position to a full-time position. For the most part, Chapter 35 remains unchanged related to the fire department. There's 2 major changes I would highlight. Currently, the volunteers and other officers in the fire department are selected by their members within the city council approving that. Under the proposed ordinance, the fire chief, as the department head of the fire department, would select the volunteers and officers for the department. And that's how it works in other departments within the city. Currently, then, the volunteer fire chief is selected by members of the volunteer fire department subject to council approval, and the building official / fire safety officer is then appointed by the city manager. Under this proposed ordinance, the fire chief would be appointed in consultation with the members of the Carroll Volunteer Fire Department. The fire chief would be appointed by the city manager and then subject to city council approval in accordance with the city's personnel policy and the state civil service law. Then there's some other changes within the ordinance, but that's the kind of the major changes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions related to the ordinance itself. The second item before the council is a resolution setting salaries and wages for the fire chief position. Now, staff has reviewed the wage data for similar position in other Iowa communities, and based on this review, staff is recommending that the top of pay for this position be set at $86,530.70 per year. Now, generally, just so the public and council is aware, new hires start at 76% of the top of pay or at a higher level depending on past experience or educational achievement that an individual may have. The position would be exempt from and not eligible for overtime pay under Fair Labor Standard Act. And additionally, the position would not be eligible for firefighter call-out pay as a volunteer firefighters receive. The third item to consider would be what pension program to place this position in. The city of Carroll is in a unique position on selecting what pension program we want the position to be in, either IPER's Protected Occupations Pension Program or the Municipal Fire Pension Retirement System of Iowa Pension Program. Now, generally, cities of 8,000 or more as of the 1990 federal census would require both police and fire departments to be part of the Municipal Fire and Police Retirement System. However, since the city did not have a paid fire department as of May 3rd of 1990, the city is in a unique position where we're not required to be part of Municipal Police and Fire, or excuse me, Municipal Fire and Police Retirement System, but we can choose to either be an IPERS or Municipal Fire and Police. I would note if a community chooses to be part of IPERS, they can later choose to be part of Municipal Fire and Police. However, once they're part of Municipal Fire and Police, they are not eligible to go back to IPERS. So there is a decision point for us to make at this point. Now, staff did spend time reviewing what option would be best for the city. There's some initial costs. They could be lower depending on a lot of different varieties in IPERs. Right now, actually, we went back and looked at the numbers again today. It would actually be cheaper to be under would it be cheaper to be under IPERs? But that could fluctuate depending on what work comp rates are and what discounts the city is receiving. But there is some long-term risk of being municipal fire and police for the city. Additionally, we did reach out to a lot of our counterparts and ask them, what option they would choose. These were municipal fire and police, and every community we contacted said if they had a choice between municipal fire and police or IPERs, they'd actually pick IPERs. And that's because of some risk. And risk in particular, if an employee goes under a medical retirement due to an on-the-job injury, or if there's a presumptive health condition, and these include cancer, heart disease, or lung conditions, then the city is required to pay medical costs long-term for the life of that retiree. Those same conditions would be under IPERs would become covered under work comp, and work comp is not an option under municipal fire and police. And so with that considerations, city staff is recommending that council initially select IPERs over municipal fire and police for the pension program. Just in closing, I do want to really thank these 4 individuals because they have spent a lot of time over the last year with me and some meetings, and there was some nice summer days. I know we were in a conference room because we've been working on this. So just really thank Dan Honish, Jeff Cullen, who's not here this evening, Josh Hamilton, Brad Warnke, and BJ Schreck for their efforts and work on this, because it really, without them, it just would be a different ordinance at this point. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the ordinance amending Chapter 35 of the Fire Department Code. We're recommending the resolution as presented this evening, and we're recommending a motion to enroll the fire chief position in the IPERS Protected Occupations Pension Program. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council has this evening. So thank you.
Any questions from the council?
Read it all over, fine.
Yeah.
Over here. I'm a real novice. Mike and I talked about it earlier this week. I'm a novice when it comes to the municipal fire thing. I'm familiar with IPERs, so I'm just go completely off of the recommendation and what he found out and the due diligence he did. How about you, young men? Do you have anything that you'd like to add at this time? You're welcome to.
I don't think so. I think we've done enough research as a group, and I think Mike has done a good job as presenting it to everybody, I think it's a good descriptive, we believe.
Well, I echo his sentiments as well. Thanks for the guidance of which you've provided and the dialogue and the exchange that you've had. I know it's been multiple times, and so that weighs heavily on you guys as well. So, Greg, I gotta at least ask if you've got something you'd like to add.
No, I just appreciate Mike's efforts too in dealing with me and the staff of the fire department. And, I'm in the process now of getting a date confirmed, and I'll get back to council over the next few weeks to a month and move forward from there. I've enjoyed the role and all that. It's been a great pleasure working, especially with firefighters and that kind of thing. So, and this is good to put, I just didn't want to drop the ball on retirement and have nothing in place. So tried to give a good heads up notice so we could get through this process and move forward. So.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It'll be tough to let you go, but we'll manage in the end because we'll fill it with capable hands as well. So you want to say, though, that I think we'll handle one item at a time, ordinance, the resolution, and then the motion, if you will, please.
All second, yes.
And then you want to talk about the waiving the readings?
Yeah, I do have a request, and certainly this is in the council's prerogative to do this, but I would request the council consider approval of the first reading and waiving of the second and third readings tonight, and then do final adoption of the ordinance. That would allow us to post the position, and then we're hopeful that we can we're looking at dates of trying to do the interviews, and we're going to have to move stuff up because of summer vacations we're finding out. And so we're going to be probably doing interviews in May and maybe even earlier part of May at this point. So just so we have enough time to get it posted and out there, that would allow us to get it posted and get applicants time to apply.
Normally, I would not be in favor of waiving all the readings, but because it's basically you guys that have been working on this and not the general public, and you've been doing this for over a year, I'm fine with waiving all three. Otherwise, I wouldn't if you guys weren't involved.
Anybody else? Can I take that as a motion?
You can do that, yes.
All right, so there's a motion, and is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second for the ordinance to amend Chapter 35 for the fire department, and this would include waiving the second and third readings, correct? Had everybody else heard it? Very good. Motion and a second is in place. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ordinance,
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
So then the next item would be the resolution to set, sorry? What I
So
missed?
that was to waive the readings or approve the first one, waive the second, third. Now we have
Need a
to,
second
now
to waive.
to
I'm
adopt.
sorry.
No, you,
Oh,
we
to
did to
adopt.
adopt.
I'm sorry. Yeah, once again, I'm busted. So the next motion would be to adopt said ordinance, correct?
Yes.
So moved.
And motion and a second.
I'm sorry, JJ, or Misty, you did. Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ordinance, Dirks,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Yeah, that would normally come with the third reading, which we just waived, so very good. Okay, the next would be the resolution setting salaries and wages for the fire chief of City of Carroll for fiscal year 22 and 23. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved. Yes.
Motion? Second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. Motion and a second. Once again, resolution setting salaries and wages for the fire chief of the City of Carroll for fiscal year 23. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ordinance,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
And then finally, I would seek a motion to enroll the fire chief position into the IPERS program.
So moved.
To that effect? Motion, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Shrek,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ordinance. Motion is approved.
Very good. The business is final. Thank you again. Thank you
you, guys.
again. Item number 7 on tonight's agenda is resolutions, and we have 2 resolutions. One for the baseball stadium lease agreement for Carroll Community Schools, and the second one for baseball stadium lease agreement for Kemper Catholic. And Chad, I believe this is yours?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are basically the exact same lease that we had agreements with Kemper and CCSD, going up until merchants came back. Really, the only differences between the old leases and these are having to do with scheduling. I know it's in our notes, but just kind of going over a little bit. Both school districts will have until November 1st to have their games set, which is plenty of time for them. They're normally getting these done in July and August for the next year. At which point, after November 1st, merchants can start scheduling their games. The only other difference is merchants' games can't be bumped to make up rescheduled games. So we do have a couple of rain dates worked in, if it ever rains around here ever again. But yeah, that's so our recommendation is for consideration and approval of the attached resolution with Carroll High School and Kemper Catholic High School for the Merchants Park lease for the 2022 baseball seasons.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Chad?
Yeah, I do. Chad, you've only got a couple rain dates. What happens if you go beyond that?
So they'll have to start looking at playing the game away at that point. And that's any of them. That's Merchants, that's Kemper, and that's Carroll.
There's also some possibilities where, like, if Merchants are playing at night, you could do a noon game
Yeah,
with the high
correct.
school. And one of the reasons, just to kind of add on, and Chad did a good job, but one of the reasons why we added this requirement that the Merchants can't get bumped anymore is it used to be, Merchants would have a game and all the teams were really close. And so it was a lot easier to move some stuff around for the Merchants. Sometimes did cause issues, but now with the Mink League, they're traveling long distance. I mean, St. Joe, Missouri. I mean, that's a long drive up here. They may play games over 2 days, and if you're bumping one of those nights, it'll cause a real ripple effect in the Merchants. Plus travel costs are just a lot higher. So that's why this was needed for the Merchants and the change that's happened. And we've given the schools a lot of heads up over this.
We were in close discussion with both high school varsity coaches as well as the athletic directors. So
Practice schedule's all the same way.
for the most part, the good thing about Kemper and Carroll, they work really well together, and they have for many years as far as setting schedules. And basically, the summer practice schedule is almost already set, so everything looks good.
Any other questions for Chad? Then I would seek a motion. We'll do the first one for the resolution to approve the baseball stadium lease agreement for Carroll Community School District. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Or a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the baseball stadium lease agreement for Carroll Community Schools. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Base.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Bordenero.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Very good, thank you. And then we will move to the second resolution, which is a baseball stadium lease agreement with Kemper Catholic Schools. Is there a motion to that effect?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolution for baseball for Kemper Catholic. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Seaman.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bordenero.
Yes.
Schreck.
Yes.
Base.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Well, that concludes most of our business. We'll move to reports, committee reports, none. Comments from the mayor, I have none. Comments from city council? None. Comments from the city manager?
None this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Then I would seek a motion to adjourn. There's a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bauer.
Yes.
Bordenero.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Base. Schreck.
Yes.
We are adjourned.